fascinating thing. We often like to think of it as something that just is. But too many people let the past determine who they are. When true greatness is determined by how one deals with the present. So if I'm helping you, I have one condition.
Yeah. No more quitting.
Time is a gift, Isom. What are you gonna do with yours?
What is up, everybody? We're live on my channel on a Saturday. I don't do this a lot, being live on a Saturday, but I do appreciate every one of you joining us here today and getting right into it. Of course, we have a very, very, very special guest join us today. We're going to be shooting shit, talking comics, talking the industry, talking ups and downs, certainly today. And I'm joined by the great legendary Punisher writer, just legendary comic book writer. Let's just say that. Mike Barron, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric.
I appreciate you again joining us, man. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about everything. Let me first, of course, thank each and every one of you guys that has obviously Isom 2 looking at it right now. Actually, I'll pull it up real quick if I can present, if you don't mind. So Isom 2 right now is at 1.5 million. We have almost 900, closing on 900 books donated. We appreciate y'all participating in that. Comic Books for Kids. I actually spoke with Mark today. Very thankful and all of that. So appreciate you. This thing continues to shoot up. We have the short box still. We're waiting to get that finished. It should be done going into next week or by the end of next week. We also have that final cover that will be announced soon enough once we close in on that 25K books sold. So thank y'all so much for showing a lot of love there. I know there was a little power. I know, Mike, you probably don't know about it, but as of recent, because we launched this the fan art contest, Comic Pro, one by the name of Mark Brooks, I'm gonna name him this time because he's a fucking idiot, had some interesting things to say about that. You can watch my previous video on that where I go through that idiot, and apparently he thinks it's an absolute crime that we would dare to have a fan art contest, which we'll go to right now, in which you get cash rewards in addition to everything as part of Isom 2. In the first place, of course, $1,000 commission in addition to the $1,000 that you get for a pinup or interior, and where you can get some sequential interior work that's going to be worth up to 23 grand. And apparently that's a damn crime to do that. But it doesn't matter. We're going to continue to be great. And that's just what it is that we do. But again, because we're joined by a absolute wonderful guest, I want to start off because a lot of people might not know, Mike. So there was this kick up, and I would love for you to take as much time as you need. That happened out of course, your new material called Private American. And that, we really saw the censorship sort of in action with that, right? We saw you getting taken down. You saw comic pros and other weirdos advocating for that to be taken down from various, crowdfunding platforms. So give it to us from the absolute beginning. What the hell happened with that?
Well, the book is about the southern border, and apparently that's a forbidden subject. We were doing well. We were moving along when out of the blue, the Daily Kos, a far-left hate site, ran a story. The headline was, Mike Barron releases another racist AF comic book. It was written by a woman who has never read anything I've written, which was obvious in the article when she described our previous book, Thin Blue Line, as a book about white police officers going into black neighborhoods to kill as many black people as possible. Well, nothing of the sort happens like that. In fact, the two protagonists don't kill anyone. And then she described Private American, which had not been released, in similar terms. So we contacted the Daily Kos and asked, "Have you read uh, Private American?" They said, "Well, no." I said, "Would you like to?" And somebody at the other end said, "Well, if we must." So Chris made that available to them 3 months ago, and as of today, they haven't looked at it.
Of course. Of course. So they wrote a hit piece, had no problem writing that, and you gave them the opportunity, like, hey, look at it for yourself. And these idiots didn't even want to actually read the bad boy. It's almost as if they had sort of ulterior motives, and that's just the thing that it absolutely angers me and aggravates because this is the type of tactic that, of course, we see more specifically from the left in entertainment, really in
All
general,
the
right?
time.
All the time. These are their tactics. This is what it is they use to try to silence people, to present themselves as if they are actually doing way better than what it is that they are, and their enemies are just the worst people in the world because they simply try to control these various channels, and in some cases they do. That lends itself to being able to censor their people that they see as political enemies. And of course, you dealt with that. I remember that kick up. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull it up right here because it is on in demand on fundmycomic.com. If I can get some of my mods, I know Sheep, if you can look that up on fundmycomic.com, Private American, and get that link to everybody in the chat because I don't have it in the description, but I am going to share it here. Give us a brief breakdown of what it is, a story in itself that was so damn controversial that it had to be taken down from crowdfunding sites.
Well, I think the first thing is that it's about the southern border, and we're not allowed to discuss that. 10 years ago, this would not be controversial. It shouldn't be controversial today. No organism, neither a single cell nor a nation, can survive without controlling its borders. Even a child knows that. Why they chose to attack me, I don't know. But the woman who wrote the article called for everyone to write into Kickstarter and get us kicked off, and she succeeded. And that's one of the reasons we're going to a new site called Fund My Comic, which doesn't have an axe to grind. As for the rest of it, Private American is filled with landmines that are designed to make you gasp and laugh. And anybody who has read the book knows what I'm talking about. I wrote it in reaction to what Marvel had done to the Punisher. I love the Punisher, and I hated to see the character dragged through the mud, which is what's happening right now. And the story came about when I asked myself, well, what would Punisher be doing if I were writing him today? He'd be down on the southern border intercepting human traffickers, fentanyl smugglers, and terrorists that are just pouring across the open border. And that's what the story is about, and that's how it starts. But it's not a lecture. My first goal, as always, is to entertain. This is an exciting, gripping story you won't be able to put down until you finish it.
That's awesome. You can see some of the work here, all of the covers there. And again, it looks like our mods already got it in the. Yep, there it is, right there in the chat. So be sure to go get this. You can get on demand, basically on Fund My Comic. And so, what was the issue? Like when I know, obviously, well, we know what they tried to cry, but what was this for the audience sake? What was Kickstarter's excuse there when as he's holding it up there? Look at that, check that out.
What was their excuse? Well, we wish we knew, but they never responded to any of our queries.
So they just took it down.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So they took it down. They didn't even say anything, and that's part of the course. We've dealt with that on my various forms of social media when for basically next to no reason I've been taken down, and it doesn't make any sense. But it is good at minimum. It sucks for something like that, definitely, because it kills momentum. But this is allow like fundmycomic.com, these alternatives to sort of pop up and give you that same kind of familiarity that you get in the kind of crowdfunding space, while also being able to not have to, let's say, deal with all of that nonsense. So I appreciate them, and obviously for getting you back on this and you being able to just tell whatever story it is. It's funny, that used to be what comic books were about, but you can't tell any damn story that seems to be mildly controversial to them. Not that it's controversial in action or the story it is that you're telling. So you brought up a good point, though, and I would love to go into that because I know this is going to be insanely intriguing to my audience. You talked about, hey, if I was writing a Punisher now, kind of what kind of stuff would he be doing? So if you can, obviously we know that was my first introduction to you as a youngster and all the stuff that you did there with the Punisher. What was kind of entering in your space? I've asked Chuck this question. I've asked Graham this question. I have to ask it to you because, again, being such a legendary writer, I think it's important. What was your introduction into doing comics? And kind of let us know, like, the audience in on your journey that got you from point A to ended up writing other characters. There was the Punishers of the world and all that.
Well, I was working at an insurance company and I got a call from a newspaper editor. He said, "There's some guy down here trying to sell us his art. You should take a look at it." So I got the phone number. I called up Steve Rude and we met on the steps of the student union in Madison, Wisconsin. And he opened his portfolio right there on the steps. And I took one look at it and I stopped drawing. I mean, I stopped dreaming of turning myself into an artist. And I said, "Steve, what do you want to do?" He said, "I want to do comics, but I can't write. What do you want to do?" And we were in the right place at the right time. Capital City Distribution, the second largest comic book distributor in the world, had just decided to launch their own line. So I went home and I drew out the first 12 pages of Nexus by hand, which is how I wrote comics for 20 years. I didn't stop drawing, but I'm not professional. But I am good enough that you can tell what I want.
Right.
Crude knowledge of perspective and anatomy, and editors and artists loved it because everything was there on the page, all the captions, all the words, just as it would appear in a finished comic. And there was room for other notes, which I rarely included. But the whole thing with comics is to show, don't tell. And I gave those pages to the dude. He went home, penciled, inked, lettered them, brought them back. We showed them to the boys, and they said, "Hell yeah, now we need 20 more pages." And I was off and running.
I love that. That's a sick introduction because, I mean, you end up going into, starting, everybody has their own little cooler journey, right? It's like something did it. It's always that kind of defining moment that sent you into that trajectory. And I think that's so important that people kind of know that because, again, not everybody's, it's not as, I guess, uniform as a lot of people like to think, where it's like this one way to get your shot. It doesn't really happen like that, maybe ever, if at all. It's more of a myth than anything. But, obviously you had the opportunity to do pretty much, I mean, hell, what big character had you not at least wrote at the time where you were like really killing it? What was your favorite? Was it a Punisher or any of the other characters that you were doing with it, Flash or whoever?
Well, of all the corporate characters I've written, it would have to be the Punisher.
Okay.
Because that's the most realistic. And I'm at a point in my life where I can't get into a story unless I believe it. And that means the story has to take itself seriously, which is why I don't watch so many of these modern superhero movies, because they're filled with jokes and asides and crummy CGI, and I just don't believe it. But the Punisher, you can believe. When I wrote him, my whole approach is a straight crime comic. And for 3 years, there were no flying saucers, time travel, or giant robots.
Yeah. And that's sick. And obviously, with my own universe and everything it is that I'm building, we have these characters, created all these damn characters, and then there's other ones that I feel like are right up my alley in terms of who it is that I write, where I'm like, this is, everybody's gonna have a favorite, and sometimes it's not the audience, sometimes it is, and it's always great to be able to write a fan favorite. And I would argue definitely with your stuff, I mean, you were doing much of the definitive, like, Punisher stuff, like that people will look at and say, this is who we think of this character. And that's, like I say, the fact that, and I guess that'll lead me into the next thing that I want to discuss, the fact that we have that character that you've done, and Punisher and other writers that have done the creators of Bane and Graham and the great Chuck Dixon, and then go to that point to being like blacklisted from the damn industry as if none of that ever happened. Right. So did you feel a similar thing? Because I talked about Chuck, or talked to Chuck about this for the audience. Like, was there a point where it was like with you, for that Marvel or the DCs of the world would stop reaching out, and you felt that it became like, it's because I'm slightly different or very different politically, and they're just not with that anymore?
I think that probably it was a factor. but some of the material I wrote back in those days, I'm not that crazy about. And one of the things that kept me going was that I believe I'm a better writer now than I was before. There was 10 years in there where I couldn't get any work at all, and I had to take any job I could get. I was a janitor, for example, at a medical supply company. And it wasn't until I moved from Wisconsin to Colorado that I started to write again. And I've been trying to write novels my whole life, but I just couldn't. I was just crap. And I think anybody who wants to write a novel has 2 million words of shit clogging up their system, and you have to get that out before you get to the good stuff. But a funny thing happened when I returned to it after 30 years. Suddenly I understood story. So I'm writing novels now. I got 15 or 16 in print, but I still love comics. And I approach comics a lot differently now than I used to. I used to just sit down and wing it, draw it from panel to panel, which taught me a lot of important lessons. But having learned those lessons, now I write full script.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, obviously the maturation, I think, is got to be a part of that when you do it as long as you have, and the approach to, I guess, storytelling in general. But, you know, I think what we've seen, again, at least in what it is that I picked up, and even when I was just covering the comic book industry, that it's hard to say when exactly it was. I know the Trump phenomenon was huge part of that, where people felt like they needed to use their art to spite their political enemies. And if you were near them or doing the creating anywhere near them, they figured that you were like the enemy, like you were a bad person, and they just couldn't have you around. And, you know, I say that as the comic book industry is having its share of struggles, certainly economically. And, you know, there's other folks that are trying to come up with the solutions to the problem. And if you don't think like them, they find you as the absolute enemy. And it's an unfortunate situation. So I bring that up, for example, with us. You know, I don't have to worry about like artists not getting paid on time, writers not getting paid on time. None of that stuff has to happen over here at the Riververse. Everybody's getting paid, everybody's getting their money, and they're good. But you know, we keep hearing these stories, really tragic stories about people in the mainstream as well as some of the major indies, using that term loosely, are having the same problems where people aren't getting paid. I don't know if writers are still connected to those guys that are still like in the industry. Is that something that is getting worse, or do you think there's going to be at some point like a fundamental shift or a change with the industry? Because to me, it doesn't seem like this is sustainable.
Well, no, it's not. And obviously the industry is circling the drain. I love comics. They're never going to go away. But Marvel and DC seem intent on alienating their readers because they forgot the number one rule, which is it's their job to entertain. And I never lose sight of that. That's my number one goal when I write anything is it entertaining? Is it involving? I had a great teacher once, a writing teacher, and he said, you make them laugh a little bit, you make them cry a little bit, you scare the hell out of them, and that's entertainment. And I've never forgotten that. So my goal is to grab the reader on the throat in the first couple of pages with a story so intriguing that he can't put it down until he finishes it. And I don't let anything out of my house these days. I have not for 10 years, if it's not a home run. But how do you do that? The most important question in fiction is what happens next? And if the reader doesn't care, he's not going to turn the page.
Bingo.
Well, how do you make the reader care? There are an infinite number of ways. You create a compelling personality, like Sherlock Holmes. You create a compelling scenario, like Jurassic World. Or you have a seductive narrative voice. That's harder to do in comics than it is in straight prose. But I know people who can do it, and Chuck is one of those guys.
Yeah.
You're reading the language, and you're in the story. You don't think it's artificial. You don't get a sense that you're not going to get a slogan that jerks you out of the story because it doesn't ring true. It's a story that takes itself seriously on its own terms and respects the reader. And
that's what it's about. To me, it's funny. You know, one of that you bring that up. You know, one of my weirdest critics came up out of nowhere over the last month talking about ISOM 11 months after it had been a thing. And, you know, one of the things that they couldn't wrap their minds around. And again, this is coming from more of a bad faith actor, not like someone that's genuinely interested in the product or anything, but they upset at the idea of, let's say, show, not necessarily tell, and having that intrigue in a story. They didn't understand that it's like, tell me everything. Why don't we know everything about his origin in the first book? And all this is like, well, I have to keep you intrigued. And like you said, there's infinite ways to do that. But I don't know if it's like a cultural shift or what it is, where you have like this instant, maybe that's like the TikTok world, where it's like instant gratification, where people aren't looking at it through the lens of being invested in that story or being invested in that property or that universe or anything of that nature. And I want to get your thoughts on, like, not necessarily as it pertains to like myself as an individual writer, but that concept of show, you know, not necessarily tell, and not maybe not insulting the audience as if they, you know, can't think for themselves and all that. I would love for you to expand on that.
Well, show don't tell is the second most important rule of writing comics. The first is to entertain, and never forget that. But show don't tell means that any information you can impart to the reader visually that advances the story without words, you should. And you save your words to make them count. I'm like Scrooge McDuck with my words. I hate to spend them. When I put them down, I try to have this maximum impact. And I use them for characterization. For example, I want my characters to speak in a unique way, but not in a sense that's artificial, so that it charges you out of the story. And we've all seen this. I mean, how many times have we read, "We're not in Kansas anymore"?
Yeah.
Or "Move it, people," or "We have to talk." Now, there are ways of expressing those sentiments that don't use those words, and you should find them. You find your own unique way of expressing yourself. I always have my ears open and a pad and a pen with me, in case I hear a colloquialism that appeals to me that I haven't heard in a comic before, and I'll write that down and try to use it. And any writer worth his salt knows that at some point, if you create a good character, that character is going to turn around and tell you what he's going to do next.
Oh yeah, and I love that you bring that up, you know, because that's something been my experience, and really what it is that I try to portray in the stories it is that I tell. You know, I try to even give these characters even a cadence, you know, about them, where it's words when they're speaking, but you know, like Sam in my story doesn't talk exactly like Isom, you know what I mean? Like it's not you can pick that up, you know, a certain dialect, certain phrases and stuff that makes it unique to them. That you feel like that character's they're an actual individual, right? As
That's right.
Just being a guy with or gal with some speech bubble or something, you know what I mean? So I love how you put that, certainly, because you know I've been there in the experience, and you know that's what it is. I guess that's the experience that I try to give my audience as readers. I want to get to some of these super chats while before we get too far behind. By the way, and again, I appreciate y'all closing in on 900 concurrent viewers. So I appreciate y'all hanging out with myself and Mike. This has been a long time coming. We've been meaning to get this set up, and we finally got it set up. So I appreciate it. Every bit of y'all hanging out on a Saturday, which I'm never streaming on a Saturday. But Hatch with the 5 says, went to Garden State Comic-Con, and there was a Comics Gate roll. EVS Andy Smith. I did see that. I saw some pictures on that. Fraga, Graham Nolan, Billy Tucci rocked Rippaverse hat too. Hell yeah. When it says hats 450. Love to hear that. Yeah, it's certain things that are happening. I think there is a shift. I think with, like, for example, with us doing like Fan Expo and Anime Matsuri, what it is that I've done, you know, at some point they tried to keep us out, but you know, when you have a demand, they have a demand, and everybody wins, and that's just not gonna last for, I think, much longer, for sure.
Well, you have showed us the way with your site, and now we're following. We have the comics of Mike Barron is going up shortly. It's Barron Comics, BarronComics.com. It's almost gone live.
I love that. I absolutely love that that we're hearing people be able to set that up themselves and be able to keep that as independent as possible. And you yourself, just considering your experience, know exactly how important that is and why it's important.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that, man. So big shout out to you. Narwhal with a 5 said just finished Private American the other day. It's awesome. Mike is a legend. Absolutely is.
Thanks, Nar.
We have Miss Maria with a 5. I picture the Punisher invading Krakoa to force the mutants back to back his family. We're gonna get into Punisher and what they're doing to him now here in a little bit once we get caught up, because I certainly want to hear how Mike sees that. Plush with a 2 says Mr. Barron must see Punisher Warzone. Here his take.
I saw it and I thought that Ray Stevenson was the best Punisher, even though the movie's not very good. I don't know why it's so hard for them to make a decent Punisher movie. The best Punisher movie is The Equalizer, starring Denzel Washington.
yeah.
Everybody should see that.
Absolutely. I appreciate you becoming a member there, Polonius. Also, I saw that we had a 10 gifted from Brent. I missed that earlier, so shout out to y'all. We do have a bunch of new emotes, Riververse emotes, all that good stuff. Hi, Larry, with says Colin file.
I think he's talking to me.
Yeah.
Just, because the Badger's calling everybody Larry for years now. Everybody calls me Larry.
Ginger Adventure with a 5. We need real people to write. Weak times, weak men. Social media also feminize the culture. Oh, absolutely. You've hit it out the park. And I think again, when you see people, definitely men, get out there and write and be great, they start to get pushed back. And I think it's just because we're over the target. We have Paul with a 10 says the goal that old school storytellers and the new woke are totally different. Guys like Mike want to entertain. The woke's goal is to radicalize towards a Marxism based philosophy. You are not incorrect there. That's very, very true. They're there to lecture. I mean, and it's not like
That's right.
they're not trying to entertain. It's not a thing that they give a damn about. They're using the characters as a vehicle for their own personal politics, and they're gonna beat you over the head, not entertain you at all, and lecture you. And such a corny way to do things, but it does show how they hijack. You know what I mean? Like this, they can't really.
That's right. That's right.
They're not really creatives, right? They can only like take something else and spin it and use it to attack their ideological enemies.
The left targets an institution, invades it, kills it, and then wears the body like a husk.
Perfectly put. Which brings me to my next. I got to get your thoughts on it. So we saw what happened with, or I don't know. You have to know what happened with Punisher and Jason Aaron's run right now, and he brought back his wife, and only for his wife to insult him and divorce him and take his money, and he's being lectured by all the members of the Avengers. What the hell are they doing to this character?
Well, I have not read the comics, but I've read plenty of excerpts, and I've looked at the pages that have appeared in the articles. And what's going on is they're embarrassed by the Punisher. The Punisher represents everything they don't like: masculine strength, retribution, the American vigilante. So they say, well, we're going to show you, we're going to humiliate this character and ruin him for all times. And then we'll be rid of the onus of this terrible male example.
Unbelievable. And when I saw that, I thought it was a joke. And I'm like, there's no way that not that I wouldn't put it past them to do it, but the way they did it was so, you could see it was like purposeful. And it's like, it wasn't just Jason Aaron that was in, or it's like it came from editorial. Like, we got to run this guy through the absolute mud. You know what I mean? We have to. He is supported by the Undesirables. They rock his logo, and which they recently changed and all that. We have to make sure that people see this character for what he is, as a bad character, or they don't like him, or whatever the stupid reason is. And when I saw that, I was like, that part is really unbelievable that they will go that far, like the whole resurrection of the wife thing and like using it. I was like, these guys really don't, and it's not less of them not liking just a character, but they certainly have their anger, like towards animosity towards people that like the character, right?
Yeah.
And that seems to be what a big part of it is. It's like they don't like you. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And it's right on par for the course for who that like what it is that they do in other avenues. You know what I mean? Where it's like, for example, I see success with the Rippaverse, and they can't dare to believe that in those same talking heads, the first thing that they do is go attack the audience, right? Like it's like we don't like
That's
y'all.
right.
We hate y'all.
That's right.
Y'all have your own politics. You have your own social views and all that shit. It's like, man, come on.
Yeah.
Get
Well,
that.
entertainment is not a factor.
Yeah, not even
I
close.
mean, they're sticking it to the man.
Yeah, yep. That's exactly what it is they're doing. Which brings me to this. I want you to give us more information on this because it's doing well right now on this Bronze Star project here. Let me pull this up real quick. Like I said, I'm never using. There we go. All right, cool. So tell us about this. What's going on with this on farmcomic.com? You guys can see it in the description. Go check that out. But let us know about this project.
Well, I've always wanted to work with Pat Broderick. He's a brilliant illustrator. You all know his work from Firestorm and many other titles. And I said, Pat, what do you want to draw? And he said, I want to draw a supernatural Western. And so that's where this story was born. So
Okay.
I turned my mind to it. I used some standard Western tropes and I turned them on their ear. It's about Harley Brogdon, a Confederate veteran and a member of Quantrill's Raiders who quit the Raiders in disgust and headed west to make a living shooting game for the Army and gambling. And one night in a poker game, a scoundrel who tried to cheat him draws on him, and Harley beats him to the draw and kills him. And it turns out this guy was the son of a very powerful landowner, which we can liken to the present president of the United States, who will stop at nothing to bring Harley to justice. So he gets a posse up, and they chase him clear out of the country to a tiny town at the foothills of the Canadian Rockies, Cobb's Gap. It's remarkably peaceful after dark. And the reason it's remarkably peaceful is because the sheriff has an affliction. There used to be a silver mine in Cobb's Gap, but nobody goes to the mine anymore, and nobody will tell you why.
This is sick. Looking at some of this artwork, man. This is lovely. You guys,
can you play the video?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's play it right here. I hope I got my audio shared. Let me know, chat, if you guys can hear this.
The Civil War was America's bloodiest conflict. Over 500,000 died to preserve national unity. When the war ended, Confederates like Harley Brogdon headed west, shooting game for the Army and gambling. When a card game turns deadly, Harley shoots in self-defense, killing the card sharp who threw down first. Wilfred Knorr, the card sharp's wealthy father, will stop at nothing to see Harley hang. Harley flees to Cobb's Gap, an old silver mining town at the foot of the Rockies. A remarkably peaceful town, especially after dark. But the sheriff harbors a dark secret, and no one dares go into the mines anymore. Cobb's Gap is full of secrets. People speak in hushed tones of something in the mine. Something worse than their cursed sheriff. Something even the Indians fear. Tired of running, Harley falls in love with a local widow with secrets of her own. But when Knorr's posse arrives seeking vengeance, the stage is set for a showdown with unimaginable horrors from the deepest pits of hell. And every secret will be exposed. Eisner winner Mike Barron and acclaimed illustrator Pat Broderick present one of the weirdest westerns that Comic Dom has ever seen. Bronze Star, a thrilling tale of love, revenge, and supernatural terror from the minds of two legendary creators. It's not the monster you're looking for. Order your copy at bronzestarcomic.com.
No!
That is sick. That was a damn good trailer, by the way. Hey, look, it's me. But yeah, man, you guys, that link for sure is in the description. You gotta check that out. I'm sure the mods can help you out, get you set up as well. Again, it's called Bronze Star. You can see it on formycomic.com. I love to hear and really see people that are, I mean, above all odds, you've kind of been up against it, considering what they did with Private American. And I have to ask.
The reason I wrote that is because if people who miss the Punisher, that's what the Punisher should be.
Right. And it makes sense. And it's like you got punished by a weirdo because a weirdo put out an article, and again, based on a book that they didn't read. That in itself is hilarious. But I want to get your thoughts on like how things look in the future, because we know that crowdfunding has introduced something that's new, right? It's a different animal, right? It's like where everybody hit a ceiling, I guess, if that makes sense. If you were doing things independently, right? Everybody hit a ceiling, and then that's why. Same thing with music, right? You can only get so much. You only used to be able to get so popular up until you had to go through record labels, up until you had to work for the big guys, all that. So I want to know kind of what do you think this comic book realm sort of looks like now that you have crowdfunding, you have other economic opportunities that allow people to really go around the gates and still continue to create. We see what you're doing. We see what Chuck's been able to do. And it's not just with crowdfunding, it's just with like social media and being able to connect with other people as well. How do you think this industry is going to look like, going into the future, considering all of these options that creatives now have?
Well, I think guys like you and Ethan Van Sciver have opened up a new world of opportunity. Now everybody thinks they can do a comic, and everybody does, but that doesn't mean it's any good. But the core group of Comicsgate, we're all seasoned, experienced pros, and I got most of those books, and they're outstanding. They're far better than any corporate comics because we know what we're doing. One thing that nobody ever mentions about the death of comics is the rise of video games. Because the fact is that your average corporate comic for $5 doesn't give you nearly the enjoyment you get from a good video game. Geez, what am I thinking of?
There's plenty of them out there, both indie and all that. There's plenty of them out there, but I get your point. I get what it is you're saying. I mean, yeah,
Call of Duty.
Yeah, people have better options in terms of the entertainment now, right?
Yeah. So if you want to sell a comic, it's got to be exceptional. It's got to be a story that people are going to talk about. They're going to read the book and say, "Holy shit! Why can't most comics be this good?"
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. Because I guess the market's even more competitive than what it is, but it's something that I don't find like unwelcoming. I don't find like I thrive in that market. I love to see other people doing great, right? I like to see that definitely in the independent space. I like to see people just getting out there creating, and I look at it like, okay, definitely for the I'm a businessman, so I love the economics of it all, and I see people do things and they implement it in their own model, and I'm like, okay, can I, what works for them? Can that make sense for me? And sometimes it doesn't, but if I can, I'll pick up game and do something similar just to try to, make my brand better, make my company better. But I don't know if there's going to be a spot for a lot of these guys as we consider this decline that we're seeing right now. Obviously, in the West, the Japanese comics and manga, they're continuing to grow. So it's not that people don't like it. It's not that people there's no demand for it. There certainly is a demand for it, but people are you read whatever to your point, the mega corporate comics. You have other ways to spend your time and to spend your money, right? So I don't know what that looks like for these guys. I would argue a lot of these guys are talentless. So the writers that are in a lot.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean? Like they don't really have much going for them. It's unfortunate that there's some very good artists at the prime of their careers that are forced to draw this stuff. It doesn't seem to be any good, and there's no draw for it. But like I said, I don't know how you feel about it. I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I think that comic books, I don't know, 5, 10 years from now, I think that the industry is going to go through its already going through a change. I think it's going to go through an even greater change where it just doesn't look like it had historically speaking. And again, there's going to be a spot for people, but I'm not sure there's going to be a spot for folks if the demand isn't there because they don't have the mega corporation to bail them out and really force feed them this or pimp the comic book retailers into buying this stuff. So if that well runs dry, because, you know, we've talked about this on my channel, I don't know what's going on with Warner. Nobody does. You know, if they're even going to at some point, because as definitely Disney, you know, they start looking at the bottom line. If they lost billions of dollars, they're like, we're not making money in this publishing on our publishing department. So we might want to make an adjustment. What does that mean for comics? Same thing that could be said for Warner. So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to look different. And these people that are around right now probably aren't going to be around at least in the same capacity as they had before. And I think that's why they hate us so much, because at least we have a model that's proven to work. So as long as we give people what it is they want, and you know how they can't control it, right? It's not like they can stop my distribution. They can't do any of that. They can't stop my website. They can't do any of that.
They would love to.
Right. It ain't for lack of trying. That's for sure. We worked with comic books for kids, and I've already seen some comments from people trying to go after the charity because they bothered to work with us. And it's like, these guys are rotten. They think they're the good guys. But what do you think these current comic pros, what does it look like 5-10 years from now? Do you think these guys are still going to be around in the same capacity?
I have no idea. The companies seem to keep rewarding failure by handing over the reins, not just in comics, but in movies, to people whose first goal is not to entertain. Not even their second, third, fourth, or fifth goal. Entertainment doesn't factor into it. They have points they want to make. Yeah. Whether they're going to be around in the future, I don't know. But I think of what we're doing with the crowdfunding, with Comicsgate, is like the dark web. It's a whole world out there that exists if you know how to enter into it. And we got the distribution thing licked. Now, granted, these books are more expensive,
of course.
But in the case of the books that I've referenced, in my own, at least I know you're getting your money's worth. These books are unforgettable. They have brilliant art. You're going to read them over and over again, and you're going to say, again, holy shit. Why can't the big two put out books this good? They used to many years ago. Well, we know why.
Oh, well, that's for sure. And, you know, there's also a level of giving. You know, I love what we've seen in the crowdfunding space with people that adopt that model fully, and the cool things that they're able to do for their customers as like they're bringing in more money. Hey, we're going to add this, we're going to add that. And it's making a very, very unique experience for the customer, for the audience. And that's something that they can't be replicated by the big two. They're too massive. You know what I mean? They can possibly do anything that's remotely like that. And yeah, we're giving people what it is they want. I mean, I think that it sounds like a no-brainer, and it should be anybody in business. But you know, if you read any modern comic books, that's not their goal. Their goal is not to entertain. It's not to give you what it is that they want. That you want. It's more so you have to live up to their standards. It's more like you're getting a lecture, right? And it's like, are you good enough to read my book that I'm lecturing you on? It's like
they're treating their audience with contempt. And here's one other thing I'd like to add: all these superhero-based movies, why don't they sell comics in the theater lobbies? People have been asking that question for 40 years.
It's because they don't care.
Because I don't care. And besides, in the long run, it wouldn't help. It might give them a short sugar rush as people come out and buy the comic. But when they get home and read the comic, and they're going to go,
Yeah, unless they were doing it on older material, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, that relationship to me has always been intriguing because we see that relationship work with the Japanese and how they do manga and anime and like one to sell the other, right? And that relationship does not exist for a lot of these movies where, you know, you can they can make $1 billion off of whatever movie or Marvel when they were just crapping those out. And it's not like they're getting just a serious uptick, right? In that character that showed up there, which is like, it's insane. And but to your point, it's not like hey, I want to go read this character and them showing up in the book. It's not like if you're reading a current era, you're getting anything that's worth a damn. The complete opposite. You're gonna get something that like, why on earth would they should have been giving this for free, giving this away for free. And even then, like, would you read it for free? It's probably not that good. It's not good enough. So, like I said, I don't know what this thing is going to look like, but I appreciate the fact that there's creatives that are out there that are able to, live out their dream and still continue to accomplish things in the realm of comics, like you mentioned with the Comics Gate guys. There's a lot of these guys are comic former, like, long time pros in this industry, right? That for better or for worse, they've done their own thing. Sometimes they had to get a fire lit up under them. Other times it's like you didn't really have a choice. It was like they blacklisted you, so you had to get out there and create. And we've seen people be able to remain on their feet and be great. And I absolutely love to see that. We got Yaira fan with a 5 said, I love to see these supposed news sites without journalistic integrity get sued into the oblivion for the obvious slander and libel. Obviously, I've had hit pieces run on me. I remember when the ISOM 1 book first came out, and the one big major news site, comic book news site that talked about it, wrote essentially a hit piece, and that was the Bleeding Cool. Those idiots over there, or the whatever Rich Dick Dixon, as I call him, he wrote that dog shit article on us, and alluding to some level of fraud and all that. And that's really all it is that they got. They just they have to make shit up. These are not.
It's funny because that's why Chris created Bleeding Fool.
Yeah, exactly, because of that asshole. And I can totally understand, because see that like, look, this should be definitely an independent scene. And this isn't me tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that this is one of the bigger stories, if not the biggest story last year. And the one thing that you had to write about was a hit piece. And it was like, you couldn't figure out any good to come from this, but it's to be expected. I don't have the same politics as them. CJ with a 5 said, just put in for Bronze Star cover B. Thank you both.
Thank you, sir.
So much for keeping comic books thriving. Yes, the link to Bronze Star is in the description. Ginger Adventure says, Hollywood has always been horrible at adaptations. That's why nobody good writes mainstream comics. They are putting the movies ahead to justify it in the comics after. Well, they make those changes, right? They're like, even nonsensical race swaps, they'll do that. And then next thing you know, now the character appears in the comic and they're black now when they were historically been white. It's just so, I don't know who they're writing these books for, but it's not an audience that's real. They don't actually exist. So yeah, ISOM 2, by the way, guys, I'm gonna go back to the fan art contest just to plug this really quick. I want to thank everybody for showing a lot of love on that. If you go to riververse.com/fan art, get that down if I can. There we go. Beautiful. You can enter in. We got we had a great fan art contest last time. Steven Sanchez was our winner. He did an incredible job. I actually show you the piece before I go back. Here, this piece that he did on Yaira I love the stylistic approach to it. He did a great job on it. And he's already done his commission. We'll announce what exactly that was. But there was a lot of good runners up. And this time, he got the $1,000 commission. But this time, the stakes are being raised even more. But there is going to be $1,000. It's not just a commission. You get a reward. So this person, if they did, let's say you got first place, and you would get $1,000 on top of that, and $1,000 additional commission. It's possible sequential art as well, and of course, even second, third, and fourth place. In addition, again, everything that was available in ISOM 2. So that's thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and books. You're going to get all of that first through fourth place, and you're going to get a cash reward. And I love doing stuff like this because there's a lot of just talent out there that really they're undiscovered. And, we get to see them and give them a commission. And sometimes that's their first big break. I remember, obviously, Marvel. A lot of Marvel artists had got discovered doing cool stuff like this. And we already are starting to get some entries to be worked on. And I can't wait to see what everybody has in store. So riververse.com/fanart if you want to join in on this July the 20th. So you got a little under a month. It will be up. So you got plenty of time. It'll end right before the ISOM 2 fulfillment, which will start next month on the 31st. So again, big shout out to every single one of you guys. I already read that one. Ooh, got 20 from Dark. Zach says signed up for Bronze Star and Private American.
Thank you, sir.
Says love your work on Nexus. Yeah, I don't know why we hadn't talked. I mean, we kind of alluded to that. So what is it? Because I can't remember if I was reading on Pounding in the Comics. They're doing something with Nexus. What's going on with that?
Yep, Nexus.
Nexus?
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of books in the works. Dark Horse just published Nefarious, which was illustrated by Richard Bonk, who also did Private America. Now Richard's working on a super secret project we're so excited about. Kelsey Shannon has finished the work on Scourge, which is the next Nexus graphic novel. It won't be out until next March, but you can order it now. Kelsey is also finishing up Triplets, which is another Nexus graphic novel we hope to launch before the end of this year. And for those who aren't familiar with Kelsey Shannon's work, prepare to have your head explode. I mean, it's just everybody who sees that has gone nuts. He's just a master of illustration. The simplicity, the elegance of line, and the color are just overwhelming.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, what else we got? We got an Angry Green Boss says, what a 5. I know what their audience is. It's Twitter. It's the Twitter crowd, but Twitter isn't a real place.
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true. And it is like, it's, TikTokers. It's guys that don't even like buy the material, which I don't know. Right. Of all people that you want to try to appeal to, you want to appeal to people that don't buy it, maybe because they're not actually genuinely interested in. They more want the destruction of it, deconstruction of it, and they don't have capital either. So it's just a weird thing that people are appealing to these weirdos and then wonder. And I guess when you consider that, I guess it makes sense why they are so angry at folks like ourselves who actually are making money doing what it is that they do. Because, I guess when you do, they see folks actually getting paid and they're like, something nefarious actually has to be going on. It's like, no, you're just giving people what they want. You can do it too. You just choose not to. Student of God with a 5 says Mike has literature on how to write stories. This information needs to be held in a vault at the Rippaverse headquarters. He's a legend.
Thank you, student.
Shout out. Scorpio says with a 5 says, hell yes, a Western comic got Bronze Star cover A and Private American cover A. I can't wait to read them. Yeah, there's a lot of different genres that are people are creating out here that are also outside of the superhero realm and the heroic, the classical, like Marvel, DC comic book stuff. Florida Man, yeah. I remember that one. There's a lot of cool, different types of comics that are being made out there, and there's again great opportunity for it. There's not one way to get in. That's the fun part for me. I think there's going to be more. Maybe we talked about what's going to happen in the future. I do think there's going to be a lot more niche stuff. There's going to be more people creating whatever kind of stuff it is that they want to create, and they're going to be wildly successful doing it. So ain't nothing wrong with that. I love to see it. Cover B it is, says Rob Biller. Private American was a banger. Keep up the great work. Big shout out to you. So yes, there's 2 things you can get. There's basically a second chance going on with Private American on fundmycomic.com. You can also, of course, get in on the Bronze Star as you just alluded to. I'm actually going to pull it right back up here just so everybody can see it. Bronze Star right now, Fund My Comic has 207 backers.
Thank you, Rob. If you're looking for Private American, you can get it at theprivateamerican.com.
Theprivateamerican.com. You can check that out. Yeah. So Bronze Star right now still available, of course, and go check it out. Fundmycomic.com. This is going to be a platform which isn't going to kick him off because some idiot leftist wrote an article on it. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's a beautiful thing to see alternatives pop up and alternatives thrives. Sometimes it's under, let's say, unfortunate conditions where it's like, again, a fire had to get lit under us for it to happen, but you make do. That's what men do. And to see that happening, Mike Barron still rolling with the punches, still doing what he has to do. We love to see that. And shout out to Fund My Comic for all it is that they are doing for you and other creatives. We have Mad Cat with a 10. Mr. Ripper, how does it feel to be compared and succeeding like the young Stan Lee? That's why I'm purchasing your comics. I expect issue 1 would be worth $1 million in 30 years. God bless and speed. Well, I've seen a bunch of people bring that up, and it's more so in the creative sense, and I appreciate that. It's not necessarily fair though, because I'm afforded a lot of opportunities that people didn't have back then because of social media, because of technology. And like I said, I don't have to go through the proper channels anymore. I said I want to do my own comic book universe. So I spent hundreds of thousands of my own money, to make something like that happen. And that was an opportunity that so many folks before myself didn't have to happen. I was just, took advantage of the stuff that's afforded to me. So I appreciate that comparison. I try to knock it down because it's like, I'm young. I'm still young. I got a lot of work, got a lot of time in front of me, Lord willing, and I'm going to continue to create. But yes, to be validated with ISOM 2 was very important for this company because it showed that it wasn't just like catching lightning in a bottle. It wasn't some one-hit wonder situation. You guys came out and showed love, and all the returning customers that are coming through and saying, we want this and we want more of it. And again, it's given us a great opportunity to be able to work with people that, like I said, books. Because I'm a relatively young guy, these were the books that I was reading. I was reading Mike's Punisher. I was reading Chuck Dixon and what he was doing with the Bat family throughout the 90s. Be able to be in this position of where I'm even talking to Mike. This is something that is, again, I was born in the right generation, and I'm just taking advantage of everything it is that I'm doing. So I appreciate it.
That's an honor, sir. I'd like to do a shout out to Luke Stone for starting Fund My Comic. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and Luke stepped up.
100%. We actually have another super chat just came in. Derail Gaming with a 5. Mike, I would love to see Dan Lawless Nexus graphic.
Me too.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities coming up for each and every one of us. So, nothing's like out of the realm of possibility these days. And us being able to connect like it is that we're doing right now is actually giving us a lot of got a lot of projects percolating. Like I think I had that first conversation with Chuck, and I think a lot of folks were like, he's going to bring them on. He's going to start doing stuff with the Riververse. And it took us a while before I could be able to announce it and let everybody know he's doing Alpha Core. But yeah, I love being able to connect with these great, again, classic writers, and even picking up game from them is something that's very important because, again, I'm a relatively young guy, and I'm always trying to, get better at what it is that I'm doing. And I'd rather learn from the absolute best around, and being able to shadow someone like the great Chuck Dixon, even with him doing all this work for the Riververse. He just finished up a second story that's not Alpha Core related. So it's just he's an absolute workhorse, man, and it's been an honor to work with him, man. I love him.
Eric, your respect for the comic tradition shines through. And I think that's something we can all appreciate. You understand the form, and you respect it, and you understand storytelling. And that's why you have such a big following.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I'm trying out here, man. I'm doing everything it is that I can. So, yeah, someone just asked. I see this comment here as I go through some of these. Didn't Eric talk about a street character that Chuck and him were talking about? Well, there's a character that he is doing. I'll just say that, and that's the only thing you know about him. It is a street level character that he is writing. And we'll announce that soon enough. But he did finish it. He's already finished the actual book.
Chuck's fast.
He is.
I keep telling him he writes too fast.
Yeah, he is nuts. He just got on it, and we had that conversation after I finished up some of the stuff that I was doing with ISOM 2. And, we obviously got everything right contractually. Let's get him going. And, man, he was done with that thing like in a week and a half. I don't know. He was like, he emailed me. He emailed me like late at night. It was awesome. He 3 o'clock my time in the morning or something. He's like, man, my juices are flowing, man. I'm going right now. And he's just an absolute rock star. So, again, to be able to do stuff with him and shadow a man like that, that's also you know, it's admirable, and it influences me, because I look at that, I'm like, all right, well, I got to finish ISOM 3, you know, to finish up this arc, because he's lapping me at this point. So again, Chuck's awesome at what it is that he do, an absolute, you know, professional, and it's a goddamn shame that they tried to blacklist this man from the industry, a guy with that wealth of knowledge and that good at what it is that he does. It's insane, and it's unbelievable, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let me ask you that. Has there been any attempt, definitely considering whether it be with Punisher and other stuff that you've done, from mainstream comics to reel you back in any form or shape?
No.
Not even a little.
No, in fact, several years ago, I was at that con in Connecticut. What's the name? The big con. But anyhow, I ran into the editor-in-chief of Marvel there, Sabowski, and I went up to him. I introduced myself. I said, Chuck, I used to write Punisher. I'd like to submit a few ideas. If he likes it, Mike, I'd love to hear them from you. And he gives me his card. Well, I submitted 5 ideas, and I never heard back. So it was all just blowing smoke. Which reminds me, I'd like to join your team one of these days.
Oh, you heard it here. You heard him. I was about to lead into the question, but you heard it here. This is the first time Mike Baer just said he loved to join the team. So I'm gonna get those conversations started. You heard it here. This is news, breaking news, breaking information that we just got. He loved to do it. I usually I put it on their table, right? I put it on the table. I say, hey, you know, I'm not gonna be pushy. You know, everybody's got their own projects. Everybody got stuff that they're working on. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm around. And Mike he just throw it out there. He said, hey, man, I love to do it. You heard it here first. So me and Mike, we're gonna have these conversations, man. I would love to. Right. On a serious note, I would absolutely love for you to do a story or two for the Rippaverse. I think.
Well, thank you, sir.
I think everybody else would. They'd absolutely, they love that. So you guys heard it here. I'm gonna make sure, just because I know, looking at the chat right now, everybody going fucking crazy. Yeah, let's do it. I'm game. I'm game for that. I'll make that happen. We'll talk everything. We'll make something happen. And again, Mike, I would love to do that, man.
Thank you, sir.
Hell yeah. Okay. So is there anything else in the works that you got? Obviously, we got Bronze Star, we got Private American. What else you got coming out of the pipeline?
Well, next is Florida Man graphic novel number 2.
Okay,
it's twice as good as the first one. It will make you break out laughing. Then I guess I'm going to give the goods away here. Richard Bonk is blazing through Sherlock Holmes meets Captain Nemo. And wait till you see the art for this. It's going to blow your mind. Then Nexus, the graphic novel that Kelsey Shannon is illustrating. And I have a number of other projects. Plus, there's projects I've been commissioned to that I can't really discuss, but I'm really excited about them.
Of course. Love to hear that, man. Staying busy, man. That's what it's about. Let me get to some of these.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. This is number 2.
Oh, yes.
This is already written.
Okay.
My artist, Joe Arnold, is blazing through it. He's got half illustrated. The guy works full-time as a police officer, and he's still faster than most pros.
Absolutely. That means he loves what he's doing. Already got JR says with a 10. Mike Barron, Rippaverse will be epic. Yeah, I think we can come up with something absolutely crazy. Mad Cat with a 10. A lot of people want to cross over with Mike and the Rageaholic. Any chance of creating a Rippaverse that much bigger? So getting Razor Fist as well on something like that, definitely with the the love for the Western stuff. Maybe there's some something that we can facilitate there. But same thing, man. Razor Fist is doing this thing with his project that he has with our man's G Prime. I'm not sure when they're gonna. I know that ended not too long ago. I'm not sure when the fulfillment starts.
Well, I know that book is done. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So that should, I'd imagine that fulfillment will be like very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm pretty sure everybody else is. But yeah, I would love to do whatever it is that we can to have, because look, the cool thing about the Rippaverse is that we have an entire universe to build here, right? Like we're at the ground level of trying to build this ever expanding universe, and there's room for everything. There's room for all sorts of genres. Not every character needs to know everybody. Not that we don't have to do that as long as it's just a big, massive shared universe. So because of that, that means that we get to work and having people along, like actual pros, people that have been around the block doing the thing. It's so very important and vital. So, like I said, I would love to have Mike and others if it is that they want to do some stuff with the Rippaverse, and we can make it happen just to make it make sense. So I'm always game for stuff like that. So, all right, we got. Let's say Bruce says with a 5, it might be cool to have a line of Rippaverse Presents if it's a story outside of the normal universe. See, those are always difficult. Definitely for something that I because who was I on with where I was talking about that? It's early this morning with Thinking Critical, and people were all these people pitching me and submitting me things like, hey, I would love to do this, I'd love to do that, because they want to get their stuff published. And I'm like, well, the Rippaverse is different, but in the event that there's that demand continues to grow, and as we lay that foundation with our infrastructure, if it makes sense to do stuff, maybe I'll entertain it. But it's always difficult with stuff, man, like that, and commitments outside of the universe. But like I said, if there's opportunity to work with people in universe, I'm always game for that. Mark with a 5 says, I see V2 10 plus 20 top graphic novels, manga since 318. Last Marvel was 922. DC was 921, both 820. Best, yeah, it's been a while. To your point. Best Western graphic novel officially is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Last Ronin is really the only one that's, I don't know, man. That's crazy that it's like that. But you're completely correct that Last Ronin is the only one that has been on the top of the charts within the graphic novel space, according to ICV2, since then. And that it was that March of I can't remember whatever year that was. And I remember covering it. And I was saying for the first time ever, there was zero American representation in that. And I look at that, I'm a competitor, right? I look at that and I'm like, what in the hell? Like, there's no way that this should be happening. You got these guys that came over here and started kicking your ass in your own market, the market that you influenced them on. Like that's unacceptable. But there's no bit of humility about the comic pros, and there's not a whole lot of like the editors don't seem to give a shit. So it's interesting. You got a chance to, because that was, Mike, you were doing things during the Jim Shooter era.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's funny this guy mentions ICV2. That's the website of Milton Greep. And Milton was the president of Capital City Distribution.
Oh,
he was our first publisher. And Milton and I are still friends. I see him every time I go back to Wisconsin.
Oh, that's small world, huh? But yeah, so because I know you did stuff with Jim. I mean, I felt like now more than ever, Jim is let me say this again, and I love your thoughts on this, because obviously you were working around doing things around that era. Like, I gained a newfound respect for him, because you hear these stories as a youngster, like, oh well, our creative they didn't like him because and it come to find out Chuck said the same thing. It was like, yeah, because he made people do their job. What I mean?
He made the trains run on time, and Jim and I are tight, but I've never actually worked for him. He's never been my editor for anything.
Okay. So yeah, he kept the trains moving, and like I feel like a guy like that is so needed and so necessary for a company of that magnitude, and they'll never bring anybody on like that, which is why, again, I think that what it is that they deserve is exactly what they're getting.
We don't have editors today like we did in the past. My editors were Archie Goodwin and Denny O'Neill. Yeah. And those were guys who came up writing. They knew how to craft a story, so they knew what they wanted. But the fact is that the time I worked for Marvel or DC, I can't remember any editorial interference whatsoever on anything that I wrote. But I trust that's the fact that I have a good story instinct and I knew how to tell a story.
Yep, most definitely. Says if you bring your family together, we will buy and you will succeed. Says Mad Cat. Yeah, man. Maybe that's what we do. Yeah, we just keep. Someone made the joke of me like having all these creatives like on like infinity stones on a gauntlet and just bringing everybody on. And if that's how it's gonna look, that's how it's gonna look. I'm game. CJ with a 5. Ripple, what is it like to make your own comic book company and then a year later work with legends in the industry? It's pinch myself type of thing, because you telling me that I was gonna at some point be able to work with like a Chuck Dixon was unrealistic to me. That would never happen. But it is a dream come true. To be doing it at the age that I'm doing it at is just, again, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be in the position it is that I am in, and I'm thankful for sure. But it's also a testament to those guys as well. You know what I mean? And like, again, these are the utmost professionals, right? When like Chuck, still a professional. It was like, obviously I wanted to work with him. I was thrilled to work with him on that Alpha Core book. But we got the business. We got to building out the story, and he was quick. He was professional, and it was still a job at the end of the day. And that helps. It's easier to work with people that want to actually work, and also are entering into that project with the to Mike's point, the point that we've been making earlier, like entering into the project like I'm here to entertain. Right, the comic book has lost its way, the industry, and I'm here to entertain first and foremost, to give people a story it is that they are going to want to read, they actually value. So that was so very, it made it easy. So it is still a pinch myself type of moment, but it makes it easier to deal with when you just are working. These are great people to work with. They do their jobs, and just awesome people to work with. And again, it shows the intrigue of the actual company and the universe. This is a very grassroots, very customer driven. I don't have investors or anything. It's a very customer driven a movement that we have here. These are people that we go at y'all's beat. I put out ISOM 1. I introduced you guys to these characters. I wanted to know who it is that people responded to the most. It was obvious. You had Alpha Core, you had Yaira. So I made sure we get those books into work. We got Chuck on one. We got the Saska sisters on the other. So it's a very, I go where the demand is at. Yeah, I go where the demand's at. So the demand's there, and if that's what you want, I'm all to make it happen. As long as we can make the dollars make sense, if you will. So it's just a wonder, and like even the potential to maybe, we talked about it with working with Mike. I love to do that, and if that's what you guys want, we want to make sure that we give you exactly what it is that you want. So again, guys, big shout out to everybody that's joined us. By the way, I have not seen, where are we at? Let me pull this up real quick on the campaign. Closing in on 880, it looks like. Total books donated, as well as 1.552 in total sales. Guys, I'm getting that short box ready for you all. I'm actually going to pull up with my artist today after the stream. It's almost done. I've seen the work. It's insane. Then I got to get it colored. And once I get it colored, we'll get it submitted. We'll get it packaged up. And we'll get that into the store. I know a lot of y'all are looking forward to that. So again, big shout out to you all. And again, to all the contestants, good luck with the fan art contest. It looks like we got another super chat that had come in. I wish Ripper and Mike made it to Jersey today. Says Hatch 450. Yeah, it looks like you guys out there having fun. I've seen the pictures, man. You guys are having a blast. And look, that stuff is important, man. I would love to, I'm out here all the time in Dallas. We do expos. I've done a fan expo and got to meet a lot of you guys. We did the meetup. That's always cool to kind of actually chat face to face with a lot of the customers. It's a fun thing to do, and I would love to do it more. Just managing the business is always interesting, because
I'm in Chattanooga at LibertyCon, which is a convention for conservative science fiction writers.
Okay, when is that?
It's going on right now.
Oh, it's right now. You're right now.
I'm in Chattanooga.
That's why I'm gonna be in Nashville. Actually,
it's freakish that I'm up so late.
I'm gonna be in Tennessee this upcoming week on a project actually out there in Nashville. Someone said in the chat we need Ripicon. That may be happening sooner than later. I would love to bring all these guys together in our pocket of the internet to chat about everything and do panels and let people sling their merchandise and the books. I love to do something like that. We'll say we'll see what happens. Someone see the numbers 22,750K books sold. So we have about 2,200 until cover D drops. That is correct. It will be here sooner than later. Okay, I want one last pitch for sure. Let me pull this up real quick for guys that made it late to the stream. If you don't mind, and one more time for us, Mike, going through a bronze star. One more again, and let people know what it's about. Obviously, where they can support it, all that good stuff.
Talk about it.
Give me.
You know, it's being colored and lettered right now. We're going to fulfill ahead of time as we do on all our books. It's a supernatural Western. If you want to know what it's about, just watch the video again. It's the greatest work of Patsker, and I should point out that Pat is no conservative. And yet we have joined hands to work together out of our mutual respect.
Amazing.
And he's not about destroying anybody's reputation. This is the greatest work of his career. The detail is so astonishing, we're going to offer an oversized black and white version as we did with Thin Blue Line. It's going to blow people's minds.
Well, there you have it. We also have, and I'm going to pull this up as well, Private American. You guys can get that as well on ForMyComic.com. It's on in demand right now on ForMyComic.com. So go check that out. If you have not, a lot of people have already read it. They are stoked about the story or they love it. So make sure you go check that out. If you haven't, this was the ever so controversial product that got Mike Barron kicked off
Yeah, we've shipped most of the books already.
Yeah, so there you go. It got him kicked off of Kickstarter. So be sure to get in on that if you haven't as well. So yeah, that's about it, man. I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, Mike, before we end the stream. I appreciate everybody kind of joining us and kicking it as well. But I know if you had anything else you wanted to chat about, anything you wanted to plug. I mean, this is your time, man. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, sir. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on. And secondly, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the work we're going to do. I'm excited about the work I'm doing now. And that's one of the brightest spots in my life is that I look forward more to writing every day than I ever had before because my writing is better. And the greatest moment I have, the greatest moment of satisfaction is when I write something and I know it's good. And the second greatest moment is when I hold the finished product in my hand.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And before we bounce, this is actually Marcos. He's the Ripperverse concept artist. He said potentially designed with Mike Barron. Where do I sign? Yeah, we get him on with a project. Yeah, he link up with you, man. Marcos is amazing.
Thank you, Marcos.
Yeah, so big shout out to Marcos and he's done all the original designs. He helped me design pretty much all the characters that you guys have seen in the Ripperverse so far. That'll be coming up in Chuck's book as well as Sasha's book as well. So he's great to work with, and yeah, we'd love to have Mike do some stuff. But that's gonna wrap it up here, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Mike, appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And like I said, we'll talk here in a bit about everything, because I would love to take you up on that and do some work with you, man. I think everybody would enjoy that as well. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. I will be back probably tomorrow. I know I'm doing some stream tomorrow. I can't remember, but I don't know if I'm going to be streaming on the channel, but we'll see. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. And until next time, y'all be easy. Peace out.